This CBC original program is available in described video.
Hello there, I'm Peter Mansbridge, just outside the House of Commons here in Ottawa. This is the place where every day politicians get asked tough questions. Tonight, you're going to get a whole different kind of tough. In our continuing attempt to gain access beyond the normal, we convinced the Prime Minister, no less, to allow 10 Canadians into his office, 10 Canadians from different parts of the country, all with different issues on their mind. Well, tonight, you're going to find out what happened when he did that. And trust me, this is television unlike anything you've ever seen before. All right, here's how tonight is going to work. Joining us in the audience are Canadians who had that opportunity to question the Prime Minister. And over the next hour, we're going to show you what happened in those conversations. And we'll also follow up some of the points that were made with the Prime Minister himself. So please welcome to the foyer of the House of Commons, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Welcome, and thank you for doing this.
No, it's my pleasure.
I should make a couple of points, first of all. The CBC picked the Canadians who are here, who had the opportunity to talk to you. Your party had nothing to do with their selection, nor your office. In fact, none of these Canadians are affiliated with any particular party. Now, in fact, the only thing you knew about them was their first name, the city they were from, and generally the topic they wanted to talk about, the economy, the loss of jobs in the oil sector in Western Canada and in Newfoundland, climate change, a variety of different issues. So you really didn't know what you were expecting when they walked in that room.
See, that's not entirely true, because I spent a whole lot of time over the past years talking with Canadians on issues that matter to them. So this was a little more formalized, shall we say, than it necessarily had been in the past. But I felt I had a pretty good sense of the kinds of questions and concerns that people were going to bring up, because I trusted you guys to get a good representative sample of the kinds of things that I've been talking about across the country.
Well, let's see just how you did with this representative sample of Canadians. We're starting tonight with Jenna.
My name's Jenna Dolly. I am 31 years old and I'm from Ajax, Ontario. I am a social worker with public health. What worries me most is people finding it difficult to live day to day.
Mommy, you have to get...
My family and I, we want financial stability that comes from us working hard, but it also, there's a responsibility of our government to ensure that we have those basic supports and services in order to maintain that. My biggest fear is that I don't give my son a better life. I want to be able to give him a healthy, happy, productive, well-rounded experience of what it means to be Canadian.
Hi, Jenna.
Hi. How are you?
Pleasure to meet you.
You too.
Very well. Have a seat, please.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Prime Minister's office.
Thank you very much. It's very nice to be here. I was thinking a lot about today, and there's so much things that I would really want to say, and but mostly I want to just convey to you that, you know, it's not easy. The everyday juggling of priorities for families is getting more and more difficult, and you know, my family and I identify ourselves as, you know, being that middle class that you talk so much about, and we're just, really kind of wanting to know that, the policies that you're putting forth, are they going to be, solid, systemic programs that are going to be there in the future for our kids?
That's a great question, Jenna. We looked at 3 different things that are going to make a difference in that, and they're not just temporary blips, they're real shifts. The first one is lowering taxes in that second income bracket. But the next big one is the CCB, our new Canada Child Benefit, that actually gives more benefits to the families who need it, and that's real money every month, tax-free, that's going to help with the cost of you have one child?
One little guy. He's 3 years old.
3 years old.
And I went on your website and I did that calculator and I looked at potentially what my family could receive going forward, and it worked out to about $840 more than what we're getting now. Yeah. But for our family, that's 1 month of childcare costs. Yeah. And I'm just kind of wondering, why wasn't there a plan that, made childcare affordable across the board for everybody?
Well, and that's the third part. The first part was the tax break, the second part is the CCB, and the third part is massive investments in infrastructure. Working with provinces on their priorities. So provinces that need more childcare spaces, that's what we're going to start working with. Now, government can't do everything, yep. But we can certainly give more help than we have been doing in the past.
Forgive me if we're a little bit skeptical, because we haven't seen much change in so long, and so we're really looking to you to step up and not just tiptoe that status quo line, and you have young children, and but for us we feel like if it costed you a little bit more to give them those things, you could do that, but my family doesn't have that same privilege, and so I'm coming here today with a lot of hope, and that you would have that sense of responsibility and authenticity that you promote so much, and being accountable to us.
I'm the first person to say that I grew up really lucky. I mean, my dad sat in that desk for the first 13 years of my life, and I had amazing opportunities and amazing chances in life. And all my life, what I've been focused on is trying to justify retroactively the incredible luck that I had, and therefore trying to do right by the country, by the world that had given me so much, is what drove me into teaching and what now drives me into politics.
Okay, that's good, and I just want you to know that we're watching, and we're hoping that maybe you won't remember me, maybe you will, but if you could think of us that do the work every single day on the ground, and we're just doing the best that we can, and we're hoping that today's a new day, and that our government's gonna recognize that and do the same.
Jenna, quite frankly, the day I forget about you and your family and all the people like you is the day I'm no longer worthy of sitting in that chair.
All right, let's talk a little bit about a national daycare program, because in a way that's what Jenna's talking about. For 25 years, Canadians have heard promises from various governments, including past Liberal ones, that there would be. It's 2016, to use somebody's phrase. Isn't it time for a national daycare program?
Well, in 2005, when the Liberals actually negotiated a national daycare program, we worked hard. Ken Dryden was the minister in place. He worked very, very hard on it. And it wasn't a national daycare program. It was 10 daycare programs, because you had to negotiate each and every one with the provinces, because the provinces had different priorities, different needs, different head starts and certain aspects of it. We know Quebec's already well down that road. So understanding that you have to work with the provinces was what we put at the core of our $20 billion social infrastructure investment program that says, look, we're going to respond to the priorities of local communities, and that includes childcare spaces, but it also includes seniors housing and low-income housing in general. And it's up to that.
Can you see a day when there'll be a national daycare program in the country? That, I understand the differences between provinces and the negotiations the federal government has to do, but Jenna's middle class. You're the party, supposedly, of the middle class. She can't make it work with what she's getting right now.
I'd like to imagine a day where childcare will be affordable to everyone. Does that take a national program? And one of the challenges with national programs is if you say $15 daycare for everyone or $7 daycare for everyone, there are families that don't need that $7 daycare. There are families who need, they can't even afford the $7. So there's a range of needs. And if we turn it around and we focus on needs and making sure that parents have choices, that daycare spaces are available and affordable and high quality, then we're making the kind of investment both in the short term that families need to get through difficult years, but also in the long term to ensure that kids start with a strong start.
All right, we're going to move on. Danny is next. He's got an interesting story to tell. Here's Danny.
My name is Danny Strelchuk. I'm 30 years old. I'm a safety advisor in the oil field. Right now in Alberta, we are going through some tough times. There's a lot of people right now that are out of jobs. They've been out of jobs for a long time, and they've got nowhere to turn right now. They're getting really desperate. My big concern is what is he going to do for Albertans right away to help them get out of this slump. Just abandoned at the airport. I would like to ask Justin about the pipelines, see what his plan is for that. You know, we've run into roadblocks left, right, and center with every single proposal that we've seen so far. I think when Alberta does poorly, the rest of the country is also going to feel the impacts. So I think that Alberta should be in the forefront of his mind. You got a plan? I do, yeah. Trying to stick to it. We'll see what he says. I just want to know what your plan is to save the oil field.
I recognize, first of all, that for a whole bunch of years recently, Alberta was driving the Canadian economy, and that really benefited us all. And now, because of oil prices, Alberta and Saskatchewan and Newfoundland and Labrador are going through a really tough time, and the country's going to be there for you. And
how does that look then? You said that you're going to be here for us.
Well,
does that mean
first of all, that means investing in the kinds of things that are going to make a difference. We can't change oil prices right now,
That's
right? But with the challenge in oil prices, a lot of construction workers and indeed engineering firms are ready to bid on municipal projects, whether it's public transit projects or city upgrades that can keep people working, can get people working, maybe not as well paid as when the oil prices are high,
is that going to
keep things moving.
Is that going to keep everyone working though? Because there's a lot of people in the oil field.
That's not going to keep everyone working,
So
unfortunately not.
Where do you see these unemployed oil field workers, or people that are struggling right now in the oil field in a year from now?
Yeah. Well, hopefully oil is going to start bouncing back, but hopefully at the same time we're going to be able to diversify the economy. The other thing that we need to look at now is how we're actually going to get our resources to market.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, the past government tried to get these done without listening to people, without looking into environmental oversight, and had a really tough time getting those pipelines built.
Yeah, when do you think we're going to actually break ground on those projects? When are we actually going to, be moving through that?
I've had this job for 10 weeks.
That's right.
The previous guys had 10 years, didn't get it done. So I'm coming at it with a different perspective that says, you know what, maybe we need to build public trust. Maybe we need to do these properly and show that we're not focused just on getting these built quickly. We're getting them built as fast as we can, but in a responsible way.
I get that, but there's a lot of people that need money, like myself. We need help, assistance right now, and I just don't know where that leaves me. If you were me, what would you do right now? Would you stay in the oil field, or would you look for something else?
Listen, all I know is you are doing the best you can. If you've got a job, even not as many hours as you like, or not as many weeks a month as you'd like, hang in there. But no matter what happens, natural resources will always be a foundational core element of Canadian economy.
All right, you're telling Danny he should hang in there, and hopefully the oil prices will either come back or the economy in Alberta will be diversified in such a way that he's going to benefit. He's working 3 or 4 days a month. Hang in there is that's the best we can tell?
Without knowing the full details of someone's, and I'm not going to pretend that I'm a career counselor, but I do know one thing, that I have tremendous confidence in Albertans. In people's resourcefulness, in people's innovative capacity, in the province's capacity to make it through tough times as they have in the past. And the one thing that I've said time and time again is The rest of the country did well when oil prices were high because Alberta and Saskatchewan and Newfoundland and Labrador were doing well. Now that oil prices have tanked, we need to, as a country, make sure we're supporting Alberta and the other resource provinces.
You kind of suggest in that conversation with Danny that the budget should see some relief for Alberta, and I guess Saskatchewan and Newfoundland too, because of oil prices, with direct investment from Ottawa into Alberta. Is there, I mean, don't tease.
We got elected on a platform to start investing in communities that needed it right across the country, to create opportunity, to create public transit, to create social infrastructure, to create green infrastructure. Absolutely. That's what we're going, not just in Alberta and elsewhere, but right across the country.
So that's the national infrastructure program you're talking about when you talk about that. There's nothing special for Alberta.
There's going to be a real focus on the areas that need it, on where there are opportunities to get moving right away. And we're working very, very hard to respond to this very, very real challenge that so many people in Alberta right now are facing. And the budget will address that.
Pipelines. You had a good conversation with Danny on pipelines. I got to tell you, I've watched that back a number of times, what you said on pipelines. And it seems to me like you're saying you believe in pipelines. You just want the opportunity for people to talk about their concerns about any pipelines, but that you seem committed to pipelines.
One of the fundamental responsibilities of any Canadian Prime Minister, and this goes back into history, whether it was fish and furs or grain on railroads, is to get our resources to market. But in the 21st century, we only get our resources to market in responsible, sustainable ways, because quite frankly, our trading partners, our customers around the world are demanding a higher level of responsibility from us than we've been able to do. So,
but there's only two ways to move oil, basically, and that's either by rail or by pipeline. And you sounded that answer like you think pipelines are the way.
Well, anyone who's been to Lac-Mégantic knows there are tremendous problems with moving oil by rail, which is happening right now. I mean, the stats on oil by rail have skyrocketed over the past number of years. We need to be thoughtful about doing this in the safest possible way. And the way to do that is to engage responsibly with the public and build a level of trust around what happens with this pipeline or any pipeline. What is the plan in case something goes wrong? How do we keep people protected? And how does this fit in within an economy that is trying to reduce its carbon emissions?
All right, let's move on. Malik had some words for you. Watch this.
My name is Malik Doshi, and I am from the prairies, the land of Saskatchewan. I am here in Ottawa to meet the Prime Minister and discuss national security with him. I have seen terrorism firsthand. I have seen urban terrorism, so I know what impacts the victims and their families. So that's why I'm really concerned that this should not happen in a peaceful and a safe country like Canada. I have some good questions for the Prime Minister.
How are you doing today, sir? Very well. Welcome to the Prime Minister's office.
Thank you, sir. This is really good.
Yeah.
So, sir, your decision to take 6 CF-18s out from Iraq and Syria, so what do you think? Is this a good message for fight against ISIS for Canada?
We're not pulling out of the fight against ISIS. We're changing our mission. We're withdrawing the 6 fighter jets because as great as RCAF pilots are and as extraordinary as they are at doing any mission that we ask them to, I think in this situation Canada can best help in other ways.
I saw your manifesto saying that we will train the Kurds and empower them to fight their own war, which is fantastic. That could be a long-term plan. But short-term plan, the reality of the ground is that Kurds are not trained. So we can do both things simultaneously, right? Don't you think that have 6 jets stay there and fight the head-on battle with ISIS?
Well, there are many jets. The countries have a lot more jets than just the Canadian jets, and they're doing a bombing mission in Iraq and Syria, and it's having a certain amount of positive impact, I'm certain, because they're continuing to do it. But it's not just dropping bombs that is the only thing Canada can do.
But after 6 Canadians dying for no reason in Burkina Faso, which the terrorist who killed had links with Al-Qaeda, which is the same like ISIS. So
actually, no, it's different.
Yeah, it's different, but the ideology is the same, to be exclusive, to be history-centric, and to be fundamental. The ideology is the same. So the point is, what message will be going to those families, to those soldiers who die on missions like this? What do you want to say to those families of the victims?
But we are going to be doing more. We are going to remain an important piece of the coalition fight against ISIL.
But sir, don't you think that ISIS is not just a geographical enemy, it's an ideological enemy?
Absolutely.
So you must be aware of ISIS sympathizers who live in the West.
Yes.
So how is your plan for stopping the radicalization of youth inside Canada?
Yeah. Well, on the one hand, we need to make sure that our police and security services have the tools needed to go after it.
So you're saying that you will be empowering RCMP with more surveillance permission?
No, making sure that security services have the tools they need, while at the same time keeping Canada as a free and open society with privacy laws respected and with positive relationships with the communities right across the country.
So we won't see any person going from Calgary to ISIS to fight further, right? Because we saw that in 2014.
Listen, there are well over 100 Canadians who have gone over to fight or are involved or are trying to, and that's a problem. But so we have to do what we can to keep Canadians safe and to keep our freedoms and liberties in place as well.
All right. Malik's tough.
Yeah,
Good interview.
it's a great
Now,
conversation.
there's three issues I want to follow up quickly on this. One, the bombing. A lot of people still don't get why you're against bombing, and you can't do both bombing and training at the same time. Are you morally opposed to bombing?
No, I think as has been done in the past, you make decisions on a case-by-case basis as to where and how to engage Canadian troops. There's no more important choice that has so many lives on the line than the decision by a government to send troops into harm's way. And how we do that and what we do to best achieve the outcomes and the help that we want to offer is an ongoing and very, very particular to the particular circumstances decision to make. And we made the decision that, well, of the three different parties in the last election, one was, gung-ho, let's go into any fight we possibly can, full on. The other one was, no, we have no business going in there, we shouldn't go in. And the Liberal Party was in the middle saying there are ways we should engage, but we should look for the best possible way to engage. And I believe that a comprehensive engagement that focuses on training, focuses on support, focuses on empowering local militias and troops to take the fight directly to ISIL to get their homes back is what Canada has developed expertise in through Afghanistan and doing much of that, and that we can best help now.
Malik mentioned Burkina Faso. We've all read that one of the parents of one of the Canadians who died in Burkina Faso at the hands of the terrorists hung up on you in a phone call because he felt like you were acting just like a politician in what you were saying to him. What do you say to him?
First of all, I repeat what I did say, that I can't imagine what he's going through, and that I give him my full support as a representative of Canadians, but also as a father who loves his wife and his kids very, very much. I was glad to be able to speak with him, and I understand his sense of deep loss and his trying to figure out how to act, what to do, where to go next.
But he felt like you weren't helping him, that you were talking like a politician.
We ensured that consular services, that the Canadian government was doing everything it possibly could in what is an unbelievably difficult situation for him. So I certainly have nothing but the deepest compassion and sympathy for him through the difficult time he's going through.
All right, moving on. NIKKI had these words for you.
I am NIKKI Fraser. I'm from Kamloops, British Columbia. And I'm here in regards to the topic of murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls. I don't know if it's like the hype of being here and getting the opportunity to speak to the Prime Minister. It's such a huge topic. But this is my Auntie Dorothy, and this is my cousin Samantha. And she went missing in Kamloops, and then my auntie went missing in the downtown east side. So I'm here for them and the many other families that have been through the same thing that my family's living through right now. I want to know what you as a Prime Minister plan to do from preventing this from continuing to happen to the Indigenous women and girls today and for the future ones, because I have a daughter who's Indigenous. She's beautiful. And I just want to know what your plan is for this from not happening anymore in Canada.
Well, on the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, our Indigenous Affairs Minister is in the consultation process right now to make sure that the public inquiry that we're going to launch very shortly involves everyone, has space for everyone, has room for premiers, has room for the provinces, municipalities, and mostly the families.
It should be 100%
witnessing.
the families.
Absolutely. But there's lessons to learn and things to make sure that we do, so we get healing for the families and the loved ones, so we get justice for the victims, and mostly so we make sure that your daughter and no one else's daughter, sister, cousin gets to go through this in the future.
Our RCMP have had a really horrible track record when it comes to dealing with missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls cases. The proof is out there that they just, lack of a better word, just don't feel like an Indigenous woman's life is valued.
Well, there are big changes to make institutionally right across the board. The RCMP is part of it, but the culture of politics and government is a big part of it as well. This matters. Indigenous lives matter. I mean, that you even have to say that is you know, frustrating to me. And then you demonstrate it. How old's your daughter?
She's 3. Her name is Ayanna Rose.
Ayanna Rose.
And I have a son. His name is Trey.
And how old is Trey?
5.
No, it keeps everything in perspective and priority.
Yeah, it does, and that's why I'm here, is because of them. I don't want her to have to grow up in a country where I have to feel like her life is less valuable than a non-Indigenous little girl life.
Indigenous lives matter. She said you felt awkward having to say that. We all know that phrase is a phrase that's used south of the border about Black Lives Matter. Why do you have to say that to Canadians now? What is it about us that you, the Prime Minister, has to use that phrase?
Well, I think we've allowed a situation to linger and grow for not just decades, but centuries now. And it is time that we renewed this relationship that goes back to the spirit of the original treaties, the original intent of partnership on this land, respect, stewardship, shared future for all who will walk the paths of this land. I mean,
we're
that's
saying that
something we're coming back
lives
to.
are being lost because people don't care. That you have to tell them that Indigenous lives matter. That's quite a statement from a Prime Minister.
It shouldn't be. And the fact that it's being highlighted for me is yet again an enforcement of the fact that we need to, a reinforcement of the fact that we need to do much more, and that's exactly what we're focused on. There's a long road to go. We're talking, years, we're talking decades for some of the things that we're hoping to set in motion, but it will get better for NIKKI's daughter and for young Indigenous people right across the country.
Let me just, one last point on this. NIKKI brought up the issue about the RCMP and that they didn't seem to care about the murdered and missing Indigenous women and children. The issue about the RCMP, their own commissioner has said that there's a racist element within the RCMP about Indigenous people. Can the RCMP police themselves on this, or does it need some intervention?
I think one of the things we have to reflect is there was a pervasive culture for a long time, not just within the RCMP, within police forces, within government agencies, within governments, within residential school system, therefore within religious communities, that othered Indigenous people to being worth less or valued less, and we have to change that culture. And it comes from inside, it comes from outside. It is about time we change that, and we will be changing it because Canadians will be changing in our perception. I mean, one of the things about the Idle No More movement was it wasn't just young Indigenous activists speaking out. It was ordinary Canadians, non-Aboriginals I met right across the country saying, we've got to do something about this. It's time to fix this broken relationship, and that's what's going to make the change through and across institutions in this country.
All right. Neil is next.
Hi, my name's Neil Piercy and I'm 58 years old. I live in London, Ontario. My life has been tough, very, very tough. It's been a survival game. London, Ontario, there used to be a lot of manufacturing jobs, and when I was working for a Freightliner, we didn't have to live paycheck to paycheck. We wouldn't have to worry about where our money was coming from to pay our bills and food. I was working 40 hours a week. Now I'm working 60 hours a week. If I don't keep up the hours for the amount of money I make, I'll be struggling even more to try to keep up.
Welcome to the Prime Minister's office.
And congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Glad you made it in. I've been in manufacturing since 1978. I've been a victim of closing plants in London, Ontario, and it's very tough for me to live. And I have a mortgage, I have a family, so I had to cash in my RSPs for my pension. Now I'm stuck.
Yeah.
I have no pension because I had to use it up. So I don't know what I'm going to do.
Unfortunately, there's far too many people in your situation, and through
Yes.
no fault of your own, you go through some really tough times where the work dries up and you have no choice because you got to put food on the table and support your family, and I totally understand that. And that's why one of the things that our government is very serious about is working with the provinces and putting forward plans on pension security, because retiring without a pension, or worse, retiring into debt, is something that far too many people are facing, and it's something that becomes all of our problem, not just your problem.
The wages I make now are a lot less. It's like I'm going back in time. And sure, people expect you to put your own pension away, but when you don't make not enough money, you don't have money to put away.
No. Listen, there's a lot of studies that have shown that people just aren't able to save what they were used to be able to save. And that's where, from my mind, the government does have a role to play and a responsibility to try and make sure that you're not going to retire into poverty. There's no easy solutions on this, but a big part of it is listening to you and hearing the concerns of folks like you right across the country, and working with provincial ministers and municipalities to ensure that we're creating all the opportunities we can.
But in the meantime, I'll be starving and maybe living on the streets by the time I'm 65.
I certainly hope not, and that's why we're making changes to the pension program, and we're trying to make sure that we're going to give you all the support we can.
I thank you for that. But if there's no manufacturing jobs, then, and that's mostly my experience all my life, it's just like, where am I supposed to go? Where's my relief? That's what I'm looking for.
This is something that I'm hearing loud and clear, Neil. You're speaking for an awful lot of people now, and I'm going to work very hard to try and make sure that we get a better future for you and for a lot of people who are struggling.
I'm still worried about
you.
my pension.
I know.
I mean,
we're
so
working
many.
very hard on that, but there's no quick fixes on this. But we're gonna try and help you.
I don't know. I'm not that happy with the answers. Not quite what I was looking for. But it's done, it's done.
Neil's not here tonight. He had to get back to London, Ontario. He was afraid he was going to lose his job if he stayed here for the weekend. But he's not happy, as you heard from the answers he got. And I got to say, you look like you were struggling and trying to figure out what to say to him.
Yeah, it was a really difficult conversation because, for all all the levers of power that a prime minister has. There's things that are bigger than what a government can legislate into being in terms of solutions. And that's why one of the things that we focused on so much is creating growth for the economy that's going to benefit everyone, particularly the middle class. But also, we talked a lot about retirement security. We have an aging demographic in this country of a lot of people who are extremely worried, like Neil, about what's going to happen 5 years from now, what's going to happen 10 years from now.
Well, there are a lot of people like Neil in this situation, you know, mid to late 50s, early 60s. They've lost their job, they've lost their retirement income, and they don't know what's going to happen to them. And they're kind of victims of this latest cycle of an industrial revolution. And, you know, the next couple of generations have been warned they may have 6, 7 jobs during their lifetime. The odds on company pensions for them are not good, so they're all looking to CPP and bettering on that. But, like, what are you saying to those tonight? Because, as you said, there's a lot of Neils out there.
Well, there's a couple. First of all, young people coming through and looking at the job market need to be able to be educated as much as possible, flexible, understand that their retirement security is something they're going to bring with them as opposed to count on the retirement and the gold watch in a particular company. And that we have time to prepare for and work around, but we have to do that. In the situation that Neil's in, well, we have to do a few things. Make sure, first of all, that people can reach OAS at 65, not 67 like the previous government was going to change it to. We're boosting the guaranteed income supplement for our most vulnerable low-income seniors, and we're going to work with the provinces to enhance the CPP. On top of that, we're going to try and make sure we're providing the kind of housing stability and income stability that our seniors in difficulty are going to need.
All right. Let's move on to Gary. Very different situation here.
My name is Gary Morris, and I'm from Amor, British Columbia. You know, I'm a super lucky guy. I was able to build this amazing company and provide hope and stability for 4,800 Canadian families. Being a business owner in Canada is, it's a challenge. I mean, it's incredibly difficult. I mean, if you look at the amount of taxes that we pay in Canada, it's incredibly high because we have incredibly great infrastructure and we have services and we have healthcare, things that are important to all Canadians. But it's the top earners that typically are employing, you know, a lot of those Canadians. And I would think that the government would want to incentivize business owners to grow. How's that integration? I'm looking forward to seeing the Prime Minister. I mean, I hope he's ready for the lightning round because I have a lot of good questions. So first off, in your election platform and the new tax regime that went live January 1, I really admire the tax cut to the middle class. I mean, I think that was so needed, and I think it's going to make a big difference to a lot of Canadians. My concern is that, you know, you went the other way with the actual 1%ers or the top income earners in Canada. So my question to you, when so many of Canadians are small and medium-sized business owners, and they're trying to grow and add, you know, more jobs to the average Canadian to employ our neighbors and our families and their kids, you know, how does increasing the tax rate to, in some cases, 57, 58% between the federal rate and the provincial rate, how does that stimulate the economy, and how does that make me and give me a incentive to continue to grow, keep top talent, and hire more people?
Well, I think it comes down to how you define a strong economy. And one of the ways I define a strong economy is the largest number of good jobs for the largest number of people. I mean, that's really what we want to have.
And I get that.
So what we chose to do is lower taxes for the middle class, lower taxes for that second income bracket from $45,000 to $89,000. In order to compensate for that, we're asking the people who make more than $200,000 in personal income to pay a little bit more in tax.
So the one thing I'd love to see you and you know, and see your government be mindful of is those people who make more than $200,000. You know, it isn't the fat cat, the bureaucrat that you're, you know, thinking is sitting in the corner office. It's small business, you know, Canadians that have built these businesses and have grown and have employed people. And you know, if the actual you know, people who are employing Canadians are being taxed to death, how are we to continue to drive the economy and help you with your, you know,
I agree entirely, and that's where...
I mean, it's kind of like Robin Hood and Sherwood Forest, right? You're not Robin Hood, and the country's not Sherwood Forest.
But that's only a piece of it, and only one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is this country does well when middle-class people have money in their pockets to spend, to grow, to invest.
The biggest issue and the biggest challenge that I see in this country right now, and the one area that I believe that you can really, really help with, is regulating credit card debt. If you've looked at a credit card payment or statement these days, if you make the minimum payment, it takes you 125 years to pay off, your credit card. Canadians are getting absolutely buried, strangled in credit card debt, and it's the one area that no government has actually focused on. And you could actually leave your DNA in this country. You could make such an impact just by shoring up that one area.
Well, just, you highlight the challenge of household debt and personal debt. We're working with banks and making sure that regulations are in place that'll keep Canadians safe, get people the financial literacy needed to know that you can't borrow now and hope that you're going to be okay later.
I'm thrilled that you recognize that, because you're 100% bang on. I mean, we're in a wonderful place. We have the strongest housing market in the world.
Well, I mean, there's challenges, and the Vancouver housing market, the Toronto housing market are putting forward particular challenges that have a number of people worried. But at the same time, I'm very, very confident about how Canadians are at being able to get through this challenge. We need to make sure that we have governments and businesses that are there to give them the opportunities and the good jobs we need.
All right, what are your concerns about the Vancouver and Toronto housing market? I raise it because a lot of people are concerned that it's foreign money that's driving those prices up.
Well, one of the issues that we have is we don't have solid data on exactly what's happening. There's a lot of anecdotal data, a lot of people telling stories about what they think is happening, and we need to make sure, and that's why we're working with the municipal governments and the provincial governments to make sure that we have a firm grasp on what actually is going on, because a lot of people are telling different theories about it.
So at this point, you don't have a theory?
At this point, we're noting that housing prices in Vancouver and Toronto are rising much quicker than cost of living, and much more quickly than people can afford. But at the same time, a lot of people have their entire retirement equity in those homes, and they're pleased that the price is going up. So we have to be very careful about any corrections we do take, and fundamentally we have to make sure the economy is growing as best it can and people have money to invest, to grow, to spend.
All right, the other issue that Gary pushes on is the whole issue of non-mortgage debt, and it's very high, as you admit in those that Q&A with Gary, for Canadians. So a lot of that comes down to credit card debt. He's worried about limits that are placed on credit card debt and the interest rates charged. Are you worried on those two fronts? And if you are, what's the government prepared to do about it?
I think that's a conversation that we need to have as a country. We have to have it with the banks. We need to have it about financial literacy. I mean, people continually are going deeper and deeper into debt. I mean, the level of household debt in this country is far greater than even in the United States. Because
the warnings have been going on for years on this, and it hasn't seemed to make a difference. Doesn't there need to be some kind of movement, whether it's by government or somehow, in discussions with the banks, that interest rates are too high and that they're giving money people can't afford to pay back, never pay back? Gary talking about 125 years to pay off.
Listen, this is a real challenge, but the easy solution of suddenly legislating something in like that is not necessarily going to have the consequences that people want. We have to be very, very thoughtful about when and how we regulate financial institutions and banks, and make sure that we're doing it in a way that actually is going to help Canadians. And scapegoating different institutions when it's about personal responsibility as well, and making sure we're educating and creating proper financial literacy. These are things that all go together on that.
Is there a timeline to thoughtfulness?
I think you have to be thoughtful every single day, Peter.
But could we expect something within the term of this government on this front?
We're going to engage in the issues that are facing Canadians. The fact that Canadians are carrying more than $28,000 on average non-mortgage household debt, that's significant, and that's something we want to deal with.
All right. Moving on, Jihan is next.
My name is Jihan. I live in Montreal, originally from Morocco, Rabat.
Bonsoir.
Bonsoir, Jihan.
Content de vous rencontrer.
Asseyez-vous, s'il vous plaît. Well,
Welcome to the Prime Minister's office.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm very happy to be here. So I was pleasantly surprised to see your cabinet gender, parity. That was very impressive. I was very happy about that. Very diverse as well, so that was really great. But I couldn't help but notice, and I don't think I'm the only one, is there is no representatives of the Black community who's been in Canada for hundreds of years and greatly contributed to this country. And I would like to ask you why.
Well, you know what? We have 30 people who represent a broad range of backgrounds. We have the first Muslim Canadian cabinet minister, a young woman, Miriam Monsef, who's 31.
From Afghanistan, right?
Yes, she came as a refugee from Afghanistan when she was 10. And actually, we have at least 2 parliamentary secretaries who are strong representatives of the Black community. So there's always more to do. There's always communities that you're going to end up leaving out when you have to create a cabinet that is small but representative of the country.
Absolutely. It was just really out of curiosity because it did stand out. I think quite a few people noticed, not to take anything away from your cabinet, but I think quite a few people noticed. And one last question that I had for you, in terms of integration, so we've seen Canada's been a very attractive country for a lot of high-skilled workers who come here, partially selected due to their employment and academic history, as an example, my parents. And then we end up here, coming here, and these people end up just, working in jobs that
they're way overqualified
Exactly.
for.
And it's hard to see your father or your mother or your cousin or your uncle go through that.
I was in my riding in the Petit Maghreb at one point, and I met a fellow who told me exactly, said, when you, as a country, accepted me here, I was a doctor in Algeria, and now I'm here in Canada, and I'm not even getting a path to be able to demonstrate my qualifications. And how are you going to address that?
Facilitate that? Is there some sort of program or something, some bridge program to help with that? Because I think it's more than necessary right now. I think it hurts a lot more families than we think it does.
I agree. The federal government can and will have a level of engagement to make sure that we're recognizing skills, that we're giving a path to be able to tool up and update one's skills so that you can practice in Canada.
We've been hearing this issue for a long time. The stories of, the doctor from Algeria who comes, who's then driving a cab in Toronto. What's especially put in for the Syrian refugees who are coming to Canada, some who are qualified and highly professional jobs? What's going to happen to them? Are they going to be driving cabs in Toronto or Regina or wherever?
The element of the answer that got cut in terms of time is the fact that we recognize it's very much a provincial responsibility as well, whether it's the boards or the orders of the colleges of doctors, of engineers. The provinces tend to regulate those. So we need to make sure that we're working with them working with the provinces to bring in pathways to recognize credentials.
But is that being considered in this whole, in the movement of refugees to Canada?
From the beginning on the refugee file, as much as it's very much a short-term action in the minds of many people, we've always kept this on. This will only be a success if 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, we can look at this community as we have other communities in the past and say they were extraordinarily successful as Canadians in contributing to the well-being of the community and of the country that they're part of. And obviously drawing the very best out of them and giving them pathways to success, given previous qualifications and given new qualifications they can achieve. That's integral to it.
All right. Our next guest the next person who talked to you came from further away than anybody else. And I'm going to show you a map to show you just how far he came. Grise Fiord in Nunavut, in the high Arctic. That's where Larry comes from. And he couldn't wait to get in your office to talk about this.
I'm going to speak from the heart. So that's just going to, I hope, carry me. Because what I'm talking to you about is very close to my heart. I'm a proud Canadian. I'm a patriot. I have a flag in my house, outside my house. And when I listen to over the years how the world is going to start using Northwest Passage. Yeah. What kind of mechanism is our government going to stand up and say, this is Canada, it has people, has Inuit. You think that in the future, sometime soon, that you will start telling these other superpowers?
Well, we have
Canada,
to. The Northwest Passage is Canadian, and Canada has control
that's what I
over
want to
that.
hear you.
And how we build the Inuit to Crown relationship, recognizing that basic fact and showing the world that we're ready to care and protect for the Northwest Passage, and that people just can't abuse it or run risk of what is a very fragile world up there. People think of the North as being tremendously tough, and it is in some ways, but it's also very fragile, and we need to recognize that and do right by it.
All right, Larry raises the Northwest Passage because his major issue is climate change, and climate change changing everything in the Arctic. The odds on the Northwest Passage being more navigable as in the years as they move on, and a lot more international shipping traffic, including oil tankers, could be going through the Northwest Passage. That's what he's worried about. You say the Northwest Passage is Canadian. Some of your superpower leader friends don't feel that way, including your friend Barack Obama. The United States thinks it's an international waterway. What are you going to tell him?
I think one of the first things we need to demonstrate is that we are ready to respond to our responsibilities around the Northwest Passage, whether it's making sure we're patrolling it properly, whether making sure we're actually caring for the people on the shores and controlling access to it in a responsible way. I mean, these are things that we don't physically have a convincing level of capacity to do at this point, and that's one of the reasons why we've made the commitment to invest significantly in the shipbuilding strategy, to make sure that we're creating a capacity to actually control and patrol what is the longest coastline in the world, because half of our coastline is in the Arctic.
Yvonne is next.
My name's Yvonne Jacobs, and I'm from St. John's, Newfoundland, and I'm here to raise issues that seniors are most concerned about, because I'm one of the seniors who's going to grow old, and I want to make sure that I can stay in my own home. When you're looking at enhancing the maybe national standards for home care, what would you include in that?
I think, well, a lot of it is to be worked out with the provinces to actually work out expectations around health care, national standards. That's one of the things that we're going to need. We need to make sure we're keeping all the focus on empowering our seniors, respecting them, and including them in active community life as much as possible.
Which is what they want to do, and they want to stay in their own communities. But home care, as it is at the moment, is often just light housework. So I think it's short-sighted just to say more home care if it's just light housework. Because it must be more. And the other thing is to have home care by doctors, nurse practitioners, physiotherapists, occupational therapists, a team approach.
That's actually what I think of when I think of home care, because the math is very simple. To keep someone in a hospital bed for 24 hours versus to provide someone the full care, the full range of care that they would need if they stayed at home, it's 10 times cheaper to do it.
And seniors are often blamed for the high cost of care in hospitals, because they're the greater users apparently. But if they could be prevented from going in there in the first place, that would help.
All right. You said earlier about how seniors are soon to be the biggest demographic in Canada, yet some seniors feel that this government, your government, is youth-oriented. You're the Minister of Youth in this government as well. Convince seniors that you're as concerned about them as you are about youth.
We've taken significant steps, whether it's on social infrastructure, where we talk about seniors housing explicitly, we talk about low-income housing, we talk about raising the guaranteed income supplement by 10% for our most vulnerable seniors. But we've also put forward in the renegotiation and the re-engagement with the provinces on health care, what we put forward is a $3 billion commitment towards better home care, particularly for seniors, because that's something something that we know is a more efficient use of taxpayer monies invested in health. But it's also about respecting our seniors, to give them the quality of life, to allow them to stay in their own home, or allow them to be cared by family for a lot longer, because we're giving them the support we need. It's about respect. It's about recognizing how to be efficient while respecting people's will and choices.
Charlotte is next.
My name is Charlotte Cadell. I'm a fifth-year student studying English and psychology at Mount St. Vincent University in Halifax. I think it's a really tough time to be a student in Canada right now. A majority of students are working and taking out loans to be able to afford school. And then those same students are graduating and realizing that there are no jobs for them to do. I think that education is a right that is being denied to students across the country. Okay, amazing. I want to see that Justin Trudeau recognizes the depth and the severity of issues facing students right now, and students need to know that his solutions are going to match that. Personally, I work 5 jobs right now.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Okay.
I'm on a scholarship, so I have to maintain a really high GPA.
Wow.
I also still have student debt. So what I really want to know is, what are you going to do to ensure that my generation can have access to the same opportunity as yours, which is simply to graduate and find meaningful work and start a family?
Yeah. So we need to be as efficient as possible as making sure that young people do get a path towards meaningful employment. Part of that is going to be doing a better job of co-op programs, responsible internships, not the unpaid internships that get overly abused.
Brutal.
Well, because those end up being unfair.
Absolutely.
Because
do you plan to end exploitative and unpaid internships? I know so many people at my school. My school has a huge unpaid internship program that are paying thousands of dollars a year to do work for free, and work that should be entry-level salary positions. And those students are struggling. Like, I had a conversation and someone was like, I need to buy professional clothes for my internship and I can't afford it because I don't have any money. I don't have money for groceries. So, like, what's happening? What does that look like for them right now?
Okay, we need to work with universities to make sure that young people have both the work opportunities, but the capacity to afford to live and to study and to move forward without crippling debts in a way that is a level playing field for everyone.
All right, Charlotte got the applause because she was the last one. But she brings 2 quick points I want to make on her. Should post-secondary education be free?
It should be fully accessible to everyone. And that means some people need more help in terms of paying for it and accessing it. Others need less help. And we need to make sure we're giving
they don't have to pay back?
We've put forward a commitment that you don't have to start paying back your student debt until you have an income level that allows you to do that.
Why shouldn't it be free just like other levels of education? What is it about post-secondary education that you got to pay for it either now or later?
Well, there's a large range of choices in post-secondary education, because we can't just talk about university. We have to talk about colleges. We have to talk about trades, right. Skills development and diplomas and all sorts of technical areas. So there's a broad swath. There should always be all sorts of choices in there. Secondly, there are families that can pay for it. There are families that cannot. And we need to focus on the ones that cannot. If we decide as a country that we'd rather put huge amounts of money into education than into healthcare and to other things. I mean, because there's limited amounts of money that we can spend. We have to make choices. And the choice we made as a government is to give people who need it the best help to achieve post-secondary education by upfront grants. Instead of having to claim it at tax time or through your parents, more generous grants for low and middle income students so that they can get through without the kinds of debts that Charlotte was talking about.
I've only got 30 seconds left in this program. Did you enjoy this?
Yes,
and is it important for you?
This was wonderful. I really enjoyed it. It was tough. It was challenging, but it was an extension of what I got to do over the past years, talking to people, listening to them, getting challenged by them, trying to think about solutions. And I look forward to continuing to do this in one way or another over the next years.
All right. Prime Minister, thank you. And thank you to our Canadians who came from across the country. There are different issues on mind. If you're wondering about where you can see the full conversation between the Prime Minister and each of these 10, they are all available online. You don't want to miss them. Thank you again to all of those who took part tonight. I'm Peter Mansbridge in Ottawa. We'll see you next time. Okay, now if you want to go over and talk to them, that'd be great. Thank you, sir.
Well done, Lily. Thank you so much. Wonderful.
This is the message from my grandfather. So this is for you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Good to see you. Oh, you did so great. So great. Thank you as well. Thank you, David. No, I appreciate the conversation. No, listen, it was great to have. Thank you.
Prime Minister, this and that. You got a bright future. You're going to star in this country.